Oh boy, don't we love hearing about audits? Don't we all dream of being audited by the IRS? That is something that is, can't say I've experienced, but that would be a time. No, from what I hear, I mean, it depends. It depends on your situation. It could be something pretty light or it could be intensive, but let's just hope and pray to the Almighty that it does not happen to us. Let's talk about here. Let's get a nice introduction. Well, the federal income tax system here in the US relies on the self assessment of taxes by individuals and businesses. This is us completing the tax forms, using TurboTax, whatever that might be, using an accountant. Right, we are using the self assessment system. And from what I hear, we actually have here in the US one of the better systems, one of the more reliable, as in taxpayers generally pay what they owe and they actually do a good job of it. So, other countries, there's a lot more corruption or anything. And hey, I mean, not here to, there's pros and cons to everything, especially when it comes to taxes here in the US, but that's just from what I hear. Now, taxpayers with taxable incomes above specified thresholds must file annual income tax returns and pay any taxes due in a timely manner. It's up to us, right? Get it done. I mean, in just kind of a reminder, like you could go in, and I use TurboTax. I'm not advocating for them. That's personally what I've used. So when I keep saying TurboTax, it could refer to anything, any of the H&R Block, any of those. But you could theoretically go in there, and I'm not advising you do this by any means, just so you understand how this all works. You could theoretically go into TurboTax and completely lie, right? Like you could lie about everything. It's not like TurboTax is now TurboTax might say this looks a little unreasonable. It's the system and they do their own things there, but you could theoretically do whatever you want. Just like if you could pull up a 1040 and fill out whatever numbers you want. Now, obviously, there are checks in place. Like if your W-4, which you get from your employer, if that doesn't match with the copy that the IRS gets, it's a pretty much an auto red flag, and you'll get audited, and they'll come in and say, "All right, this is not correct." So just keep that in mind. Like, but why I say that, why you can just go in and do whatever you want, that also just lends itself and reminds you that this is a fully self-reporting system. We are going in now. People, I don't know if you've seen this online, but there's like for years constant complaints of, if the IRS the IRS knows how much tax we'll owe, why don't they just do it for us? And I mean, in theory, yeah, they do. I mean, it's a very complicated issue, but the lobbying from all the tax preparations and CPAs and companies and all that. But not to get into that, but I'm acknowledging it because I'm a real person. Just want to talk about that as we kind of dive in here. Yeah, I mean, in theory, in a perfect world, it would be very nice if the IRS kind of just calculated that for us. But live in that perfect world, we just got to deal with what we have. The audit process, this plays a crucial role in ensuring compliance with this self-assessment system and confirming that taxpayers are accurately reporting and paying their taxes. We go in, we self-report our taxes as taxpayers, and then the IRS selects a few of us or many of us. That's something we will see as we kind of run through our lesson here. How do they select us? Who do they select? And what are the reasons? And how do they review all of that? Well, that's what we are going to talk about as an IRS audit. That's an examination of a return, also known as an audit, where they go in and examine the accuracy. They examine what you did. Is it reasonable? Now, what are the reasons for an audit? A tax return may be audited for various reasons, such as if you've got discrepancies in reported income or deductions. You've also got random selection, or just because you've got someone who reports a different amount than what the IRS knows you have in your W-4. You could also have a random selection. They just say, okay, let's any taxpayers with a social security number that ends in 23, like we're going to select those. And I don't work for the IRS. I don't know how they randomly select, or if they just got a random number generator. But yeah, random selection or due to information obtained from third parties. Yeah, I mean, this is a thing. There's a program where you can kind of rat on someone and say, hey, IRS, they're not paying their fair share, or I know something's up. And with that, you would get a reward for that. I'm actually not familiar with that process. I don't really know. I haven't ratted on anyone. I'm not saying it's a good thing, a bad thing. Leave that up to your own morality. The purpose of an audit is to verify the accuracy of the information reported on the tax return and ensure the correct amount of tax has been paid. Yeah, makes sense. Types of audits: tax return examinations, also known as audits, can take several forms ranging from simple correspondence audits. These are the most simple, laid back, not a big deal audits where it's just mailing back and forth with the IRS agent, to a more comprehensive field audit where the agents come in and they take over your place of business, right? Just like if any of you have worked in audit for Big Four or any accounting firms, you go in, you conduct an audit on the client's premises. So too does the IRS come in and audit you on your premises, and your business or place of residence. I'm sure in these days and age, you could probably do it over Zoom as well, right? We just live in a different time. The type of audit conducted depends on the complexity of the issues involved and the level of scrutiny required. If the IRS selects someone with a very simple tax situation where they just got one job and that's it, it's just a W-4. It's going to be a very simple correspondence audit. Whereas if someone's got 3 businesses and multiple kids and a trust and estates and all of these other things, that's going to be a more complex audit. Let's talk about the post-audit outcomes. What happens after the audit's complete? Well, after an audit is completed, the IRS may propose changes to the tax return. Maybe you took a deduction, and we'll talk about that when it comes to penalties. But it could be that you knew you shouldn't have taken that deduction, or maybe you thought you should have and you did. There's many reasons, and we'll actually talk about the different penalties for negligence or for actual malicious fraud. So yeah, the IRS could propose changes resulting in additional taxes due. They say, hey, you can't actually take this $10,000 deduction, and because you can't, that results in a higher taxable income, and you will owe taxes on that. Or we could get a refund if maybe the IRS comes in and they say, actually, hey, you paid us more than you should have. So that would be a very nice outcome, or no change at all. The taxpayer has the option to either agree with the proposed changes and pay any additional taxes, or disagree and appeal the decision. We'll talk about the appealing process. We've got different courts, different ways you could go about this. If the taxpayer disagrees with the audit findings, they can pursue various appeal options, including negotiating with the IRS, requesting mediation, or taking the case to court. Yeah, I mean, there is a negotiation process. One thing that I thought tax was very black and white. When I started out working, I figured, it's the most black and white thing there is. But tax is a gray area of all gray areas. Just, we should argue our position to the IRS that we should be able to take this deduction. I mean, that's gray if there ever was an area. Lastly, interest on unpaid taxes. If the audit results in additional taxes due, interest on the unpaid taxes may also be assessed. The interest accrues from the original due date of the tax return until the date the additional tax is paid. So that could really mess you up. If they're auditing a tax return from 3 years ago and you owed taxes from that, you can bet that interest will rack up over that time period. It's essential for taxpayers to be aware of their rights and responsibilities during the process. And big one here for the tax, maintain accurate records to support their tax return information. I heard save your receipts. Save all your receipts, whether it's medical receipts if you're trying to itemize or business deductions, save those receipts. Hey there! Are you ready to not only pass your CPA exams, but truly understand and enjoy the material while studying? I know it seems impossible, right? Especially to enjoy the material? We'll do it together. Tap into the power of CPA.examprep.ai, where we've got personalized quizzes, multiple choice questions, memorization guides, flashcards, simulations, all tailored to your learning. Our adaptive study planning puts you on the fastest path to success and lifts you back up if you fall behind. Avoid wasting your precious time and money attempting an exam with a low chance of passing, because who wants that? We want to get you through this process as quick as possible. Our exam readiness prediction lets you walk in with confidence, knowing that you're prepared for success on exam day. Thankfully, there's no payment method needed to get started, so why don't you come join us? Visit cpa.examprep.ai and let's achieve your exam success together.